Welcome to another Yu-Gi-Oh! Deck guide. We are diving into one of the most iconic machine archetypes in the game. Cyber Dragon Archetype is a lineup of light machine-type monsters that revolve around special summoning themselves to quickly flood the field. This deck has become a fan favorite for players who love flashy OTKs, powerful fusion monsters, and pure machine domination. Cyber Dragon is your main boss piece and combo starter. It lets you special summon itself from your hand if only your opponent controls a monster. Best to use it as easy material for fusion or Xyz summons like Chimeratech Rampage Dragon or Cyber Dragon Nova. However, it's just a 2100 attack beater on its own with no protection, so it can be removed easily. Proto Cyber Dragon is a simple name substitute for Cyber Dragon. It counts as Cyber Dragon while on the field, letting you use it for fusion or link plays. Best to use it when you need extra name copies for cards like Power Bond or Cyber Repair Plant. However, it has no effects or special summon power, so it's a weak draw mid-game. Cyber Dragon Sway acts as another name changer and light beater. It lets you reveal a spell in your hand to become Cyber Dragon, and it also gains 300 attack when it battles a monster. Best to use it for fusion plays when you're short on Cyber Dragon names in the GY. However, the 300 attack boost is minor, and it relies on revealing spells, which can give away your strategy. Cyber Dragon Core is your main searcher and setup piece. When it's normal summoned, it lets you add a cyber spell or trap from your deck to your hand like Cyber Repair Plant or Cyber Load Fusion. It can also banish itself from the GY to special summon another Cyber Dragon monster from your deck. Best to use as your turn 1 starter to kick off your combos. However, it has only 400 attack, so it's an easy target if left exposed. Cyber Dragon Dre helps you rank up into your Xyz monsters. When it's normal summoned, it can make all your Cyber Dragons level 5, letting you easily summon Cyber Dragon Nova or Cyber Dragon Infinity. It also gives protection to a Cyber Dragon if it's banished. Best used to extend your combo into your extra deck. However, you're locked into summoning only machine monsters that turn, limiting your flexibility. Cyber Dragon Hers is your main recycler and extender. If it's sent to the GY, you can add another Cyber Dragon from your deck or GY to your hand. It can also make itself level 5 when special summoned, setting up Xyz or fusion plays. Best to use it with cards like Cyber Dragon Naxter or Machine Duplication for quick combos. However, its effects are once per turn, and it's quite weak on the field. Cyber Dragon Veer is your free body extender. When you normal or special summon any Cyber Dragon, you can special summon Veer from your hand in defense position, and all your Cyber Dragons gain 500 attack defense. Best to use for extra field presence or when pushing for game. However, it doesn't help much if you don't already have a Cyber Dragon on the field. Cyber Dragon Naxter is one of your best revival and combo tools. By discarding a monster, you can special summon it, and when it's summoned, it revives a machine monster with 2100 attack or defense from your GY, including Cyber Dragon or Chimeratech Rampage Dragon. Best to use for powerful comeback plays or to extend mid-combos. However, you're locked into summoning only machine monsters afterward, so plan your plays accordingly. Attachment Cybern is both an equip boost and a revival tool. You can equip it to any dragon or machine cyber monster to give it 600 extra attack, and if it's sent to the GY while equipped, it revives another cyber monster from your GY. Best to use it to power up your fusion monsters and keep your board alive. However, it's not great on its own and relies on other monsters to be useful. Armored Cybern is a classic union monster that supports your Cyber Dragon or fusion forms. You can equip it to protect your monster from destruction and even destroy an opponent's monster by lowering the equipped monster's attack by 1000. Best to use it for utility or when you need some built-in protection. However, it's a bit slow for modern play and can clog your hand if drawn at the wrong time. Cyberdark Keel is your burn damage and battle protection piece in the Cyberdark lineup. It lets you equip a level 3 or lower dragon monster from your GY to it, gaining that monster's original attack. Best to use it for steady chip damage since it also inflicts 300 damage whenever it destroys a monster by battle. However, it's quite slow and weak by modern standards, so it mostly serves as name support for Cyberdarkness Dragon. Cyberdark Horn is your piercing attacker among the Cyberdarks. It equips a level 3 or lower dragon from your GY to gain its attack and can deal piercing battle damage to defense position monsters. Best to use when facing defensive decks or when trying to push through smaller monsters. However, its stats are low, and it depends heavily on having a dragon in the GY to be effective. Cyberdark Edge is your direct attacker in the Cyberdark lineup. It lets you attack your opponent directly, though its attack is halved when doing so. It also gains attack from any level 3 or lower dragon it equips from the GY. Best to use for sneaky game-ending attacks when your opponent's field is clogged. However, the halved attack makes its direct attacks weaker unless you stack extra boosts or support cards. Cyberdark Cannon is your main searcher and draw engine for Cyberdarks. You can discard it to search for a machine Cyberdark monster, and when it's equipped to a monster and sent to the GY, you can draw a card. Best to use it early to set up your hand in GY while keeping card advantage. However, its effects depend on being equipped or discarded properly. It's not useful just sitting on the field. Cyberdark Claw is your searcher for Cyberdark spells and traps. You can discard it to add a Cyberdark spell trap from your deck to your hand, like Cyberdark Realm or Cyberdark Invasion. When equipped to a monster and sent to the GY, it recovers a Cyberdark monster from your GY. Best to use it for consistent combo setup and resource recycling. However, like Cannon, it doesn't do much on its own without proper setup. Cyberdark Chimera is your key combo piece for Power Bond plays. By discarding a spell or trap, you can search Power Bond and even use monsters from your GY as fusion materials once that turn. It also sends a different Cyberdark monster to the GY if it's sent there itself. Best to use mid-combo to quickly set up a fusion summon like Cyberdarkness Dragon or Cyber End Dragon. However, it locks you into using only dragon or machine cyber monsters as fusion materials, so your fusion options are limited. Cyberdark Worm acts as a flexible extender that connects Cyber and Cyberdark strategies. You can special summon it by sending a Cyber Dragon from your hand or deck to the GY if you already have another machine cyber monster. It also recycles a Cyber Spell Trap from your GY. Best to use it once per duel to both extend plays and recover key cards like Cybernetic Horizon. However, since its effect can only be used once per duel, timing its activation is crucial. Cyber Laser Dragon cannot be normal summoned or set, but can only special summoned with Photon Generator unit. This monster can destroy one monster with attack or defense equal to or higher than the attack of this monster. Indeed, a classic Garnet. Cyber Pharos is your alternative fusion enabler. You can special summon it by tributing a machine monster, and once per turn, it lets you fusion summon a machine fusion monster directly from your extra deck. It can also search Power Bond from your deck when a fusion monster you control is destroyed. Best to use it for backup fusion access when you can't draw your usual combo pieces. However, it's not very strong on its own, and tributing can slow your momentum. Cyber Jormungandr is your modern Cyber Dragon support with big combo potential. If your opponent controls a monster, you can special summon it and either summon or equip a Cyber Dragon from your deck. It can also recycle Cyber Dragon back to your hand to search polymerization. Best to use it to set up fusion plays efficiently while maintaining board presence. However, it locks you into summoning only machine monsters for the rest of the turn, so it needs a clear combo route to shine. Cyber End Dragon is your big boss fusion monster for pure power. It's a fusion monster made with 3 Cyber Dragon cards and deals piercing battle damage when attacking defense position monsters. Best to use it as your Power Bond target for a massive OTK push. However, it has no built-in protection, so it's vulnerable to card effects like Raigeki or Kaijus. Cyber Twin Dragon is your double attacking powerhouse. It's fusion summoned using 2 Cyber Dragons and can attack twice during each battle phase. Best to use it when you want to deal huge damage quickly, especially with Power Bonds to double its attack. However, it can't attack directly twice, so it's best used when your opponent has monsters to clear. Cyber Eternity Dragon is your defensive fusion boss. If you have a machine fusion monster in your GY, it can't be targeted or destroyed by your opponent's effects. It can also revive a Cyber Dragon when destroyed and protect your fusions from the GY. Best to use it to keep your board safe and sustain long duels. However, it takes setup to unlock its protection, making it slower than your offensive options. Cyberdark Dragon is your classic Cyberdark fusion boss. It equips a dragon from your GY and gains that monster's attack, plus 100 attack for every monster in your GY. Best to use it in hybrid Cyberdark builds where you can fill your GY with dragons fast. However, its power depends on how many monsters you've already sent to the GY, making it weaker early on. Cyberdark End Dragon is your ultimate Cyberdark boss monster. It's immune to all of your opponent's activated effects and can equip monsters from either GY to boost its strength and gain extra attacks. Best to use it as your final boss monster to overwhelm your opponent and push for game. However, it requires both Cyber End Dragon and Cyberdark Dragon to summon, making it hard to bring out without setup. Cyberdarkness Dragon is your control-focused Cyberdark fusion boss. It equips a dragon or machine from your GY for extra attack and can send an equip card to the GY to negate and destroy an opponent's card or effect. Best to use it to protect your board and stop enemy plays. However, it relies on equip cards to fuel its negation, so once you run out, it loses its defensive power. Chimeratech Overdragon is your high-risk, high-reward fusion nuke. It sends all your other cards to the GY on summon, but gains 800 attack per fusion material and can attack that many times each battle phase. Best to use it for crazy OTKs when you can fusion with multiple Cyber Dragons. However, it clears your own field on summon, so it's not ideal for long duels. Chimeratech Fortress Dragon is your machine board wiper. You can special summon it without polymerization by sending a Cyber Dragon and opponent's machine monsters from the field to the GY. Best to use it to punish decks that rely on machines like Machina or their Ion. However, it's only as strong as the number of monsters used, and you can't use it as fusion material afterward. Chimeratech Rampage Dragon is your combo extender and spell trap destroyer. When fusion summoned, it destroys spells and traps up to the number of materials used, and it can send up to 2 light machines from your deck to the GY to gain extra attacks. Best to use it mid-combo with Power Bond or Cyberload Fusion to clear the field and go for game. However, it has low base attack, so it needs those GY setups to shine. Chimeratech Megafleet Dragon is your extra monster zone cleaner. You can special summon it without polymerization by sending Cyber Dragon and any monster in the extra monster zone from either field to the GY. Best to use it to break boards or remove boss monsters stuck in the extra monster zone. However, like Fortress Dragon, you can't use it as fusion material, and it only hits the extra monster zone. Cyber Dragon Infinity is your main Xyz boss and negation powerhouse. You can Xyz summon it by using Cyber Dragon Nova, and it gains 200 attack per material while being able to absorb attack position monsters and negate activations once per turn. Best to use it as your go-to defensive boss to stop enemy plays. However, it can be removed by non-targeting effects like Dark Ruler No More or Kaijus. Cyber Dragon Nova is your stepping stone for Infinity. It can revive Cyber Dragon from your GY and even gain 2100 attack for a turn by banishing one. Best to use it to extend plays or to upgrade into Cyber Dragon Infinity on your first turn. However, it's vulnerable before you rank up, and if your opponent sends it to the GY, it can trigger its effect to summon a machine fusion, which can also backfire if timed poorly. Cyber Dragon Seeker is your main link monster and support piece. It becomes Cyber Dragon while on the field and can boost another machine monster with 2100 or more attack by 2100 during the battle phase. Best to use it for extra damage pushes or to help your other cyber monsters win trades. However, it can't attack the turn it uses its effect, so it's mainly a support, not a finisher. Evolution Burst is your go-to removal tool when you control a Cyber Dragon. It lets you destroy any one card your opponent controls. Best to use this when you need to clear the field for your Cyber Dragons to attack safely. However, remember that Cyber Dragon itself can't attack the turn you use this card. Photon Generator Unit is your quick way to bring out Cyber Laser Dragon. It lets you tribute 2 Cyber Dragons to special summon Cyber Laser Dragon straight. Best to use when you need a strong monster that can destroy high attack threats immediately. However, tributing 2 Cyber Dragons can be costly if you don't have ways to recycle or revive them. Cyber Repair Plant is your reliable search and recovery tool. It lets you either add a light machine monster from your deck to your hand, or shuffle one from your GY back into the deck, and if you have 3 or more Cyber Dragons in your GY, you can do both. Best to use mid to late game when your GY is full of Cyber Dragons. However, it's useless if you don't already have a Cyber Dragon in your GY. Cyber Rev System is your easy revival spell. It lets you special summon a Cyber Dragon from your hand or GY, and that monster can't be destroyed by card effects. Best to use for setting up plays or protecting your board presence. However, it only works on Cyber Dragon, not other cyber monsters. Cyber Emergency is your main search card for the deck. It lets you add a Cyber Dragon or any light machine that can't be normal summon set from your deck to your hand. Best to use at the start of your turn to grab key combo pieces like Cyber Dragon Core or Cyber Dragon Hearse. However, it's a once per turn card, so you'll have to plan carefully which search to prioritize. Cyberload Fusion is your comeback fusion spell. It lets you fusion summon a Cyber Dragon fusion monster using monsters on your field and or your face-up banished cards, then returns them to the deck. Best to use after banishing monsters with Overload Fusion or losing field presence. It's perfect for clutch recoveries. However, after using it, only your newly fusion summon monster can attack that turn. Super Strident Blaze powers up your machine fusion monsters. It prevents your opponent from activating cards or effects during your battle phase, and can let your equipped monster attack again by banishing a Cyber Dragon from your GY. Best to use on heavy hitters like Chimeratech Rampage Dragon for multiple attacks. However, your other monsters can't attack after you use its extra attack effect. Evolution End Burst is your setup card for massive fusion attacks. It lets you add Overload Fusion from your deck to your hand, and if you use 6 or more monsters for that fusion, your new monster can attack multiple times per battle phase. Best to use when going for an OTK push. However, you're locked into special summoning only by spell effects for the rest of the turn. Cyber Eternal is your revival and protection spell for cyber fusions. It lets you return a machine cyber fusion monster from your GY to the extra deck or special summon it directly, ignoring its summoning conditions. Best to use to bring back Cyber End Dragon or Chimeratech Rampage Dragon for a second round. However, it's limited to once per turn, so timing it right is key. Cyberdark Impact is your fusion path for Cyberdark Dragon. It lets you return Cyberdark Horn, Cyberdark Edge, and Cyberdark Keel from your hand, field, or GY to the deck to fusion summon Cyberdark Dragon. Best to use once you've gathered or milled your Cyberdark pieces. However, it requires all 3 specific monsters, so it can be slow or inconsistent in hand. Cyberdark Inferno is the field spell that boosts your Cyberdark monster's defense and consistency. It makes your equipped Cyberdark monsters immune to destruction and targeting by your opponent's effects, and lets you bounce and resummon them. Best to use to keep your Cyberdark monsters on the field and trigger their equip effects again. However, it only supports Cyberdark monsters, not the regular Cyber Dragon lineup. Cybernetic Horizon fuels your GY and searches for key combo pieces. It sends 2 cyber monsters, one from hand and one from deck to the GY, adds a cyber monster to your hand, and also sends a machine cyber fusion from your extra deck to the GY. Best to use to set up Cyber Eternal or Overload Fusion plays. However, you can only special summon machine monsters from the extra deck the turn you activate it. Cyberdark Realm gives your Cyberdark deck major consistency. When activated, it searches for a Cyberdark monster, and it also lets you perform an extra normal summon for them each turn. Best to use early to kickstart your Cyberdark setup and equip strategy. However, it's once per turn and can be vulnerable if removed before you use its search or summon effect. Cyber Network is your risky but explosive setup tool. It lets you banish 1 light machine from your deck each turn while it's active, and when it's destroyed, you can special summon all your banished light machines, then destroy your own spells and traps. Best to use when you're ready to flood the field with Cyber Dragons for a massive push. However, you lose your battle phase the turn you use its revival effect, and you also blow up your own back row. Attack Reflector Unit is your way to upgrade Cyber Dragon into Cyber Barrier Dragon. It lets you tribute 1 Cyber Dragon to special summon Cyber Barrier Dragon straight from your hand or deck. Best to use if you're running the older barrier version of the deck for defense-based plays. However, it's slow by modern standards and doesn't fit into most competitive Cyber Dragon builds. Cybernetic Hidden Technology is your surprise defense trap. It lets you send a Cyber Dragon or one of its fusion forms to the GY to destroy an opponent's attacking monster. Best to use when your opponent swings in expecting an easy attack. It's a great way to punish aggression. However, it costs you one of your own monsters, so it can hurt your field presence if you're not careful. Cybernetic Overflow is your main removal trap in modern Cyber Dragon decks. It lets you banish Cyber Dragons with different levels from your hand, field, or GY to destroy the same number of your opponent's cards. When it's destroyed, you can also search any cyber spell or trap from your deck. Best to use for board wiping and chain it to removal effects so you get both the destruction and the search. However, it banishes your Cyber Dragons, so you'll need to plan around that loss for future plays. Cybernetic Revolution is your quick fusion shortcut. It lets you tribute 1 Cyber Dragon to special summon any fusion monster that lists Cyber Dragon as material straight from your extra deck. Best to use in a clutch moment to drop a big monster like Cyber End Dragon for defense or a finishing push. However, that monster can't attack directly and self-destructs by the end of the next turn, so it's a short-term play. Cyberdark Invasion is your versatile Cyberdark trap for offense and control. It lets you either equip a dragon or machine from either GY to a Cyberdark monster to boost its attack, or send an equip card you control to destroy any card your opponent controls. Best to use every turn to keep pressure on your opponent while recycling your equip engines. However, it only works with Cyberdark monsters, so it's dead in hand if your field is full of regular Cyber Dragons. The main goal of Cyber Dragon is to break your opponent's board going second and summon Cyber Dragon boss monsters to OTK. The heart of the deck lies in Cyber Dragon's ability to special summon itself if your opponent controls a monster and you don't. This simple mechanic makes it super easy to swarm the field and start your plays without using your normal summon. It sets up your big combo pieces like Cyber Dragon Core or Cyber Dragon Hers to chain off and extend your turn. The deck also can bring out boss monsters like Chimeratech Rampage Dragon or Cyber Twin Dragon to end duels in one clean sweep. With cards like Cyberload Fusion and Power Bond, you'll often see plays that combine Core, Hers, and Repair Plant to search your fusion spells, then fuse multiple Cyber Dragons from the field, hand, or even GY. Machine-supporting cards like Limiter Removal can double your machine monster's attack, while Power Bond pushes your fusion monsters to insane levels and strike your opponent with over 8,000 damage in one swing. And because every Cyber Dragon card is a machine, you can take advantage of generic machine support. Cards like Machine Duplication, Cyber Repair Plant, and Galaxy Soldier make your combos consistent and explosive. This synergy also gives you access to powerful link monsters like Cyber Dragon Seeker for damage boosts and Infinity to negate your opponent's plays. In addition, while it's an OTK deck at heart, Cyber Dragons can also play defensively. Cyber Dragon Infinity is your go-to boss for control. It can negate effects, absorb monsters, and disrupt plays. You can even build a version of the deck that focuses more on stun or negation setups, using traps like Cybernetic Overflow and Infinite Impermanence to keep your opponent in check. However, Cyber Dragon Archetype has weaknesses. Cyber Dragon decks usually prefer going second since they rely on the opponent controlling monsters to trigger Cyber Dragon's special summon effect. If you're forced to go first, your setup options become limited and your explosive combos may not fully activate. It's also vulnerable in hand traps. Cards like Ash Blossom, Effect Veiler, and Nibiru can completely shut down your main combos. Losing Cyber Dragon Core or Galaxy Soldier to a well-timed hand trap can ruin your turn and leave you with no field presence. Also, floodgates like there can be only one, skill drain or Guzzin match can cripple your plays. Since most of your monsters share the same type and attribute, floodgates are particularly dangerous for this deck. You'll need cards like Cosmic Cyclone or Galaxy Cyclone ready to clear them. While Cyber Dragon has strong power cards, it can sometimes draw awkward hands. Getting too many high-level monsters or not drawing your searchers can make your plays clunky. Deck thinning and good ratios are key to maintaining consistency. Facing decks that set up multiple negates like Kashtira, Dragon Link, or branded Despia can be rough. Cyber Dragons don't have much in-board interaction before fusing or summoning Infinity, so breaking heavy boards requires precise card sequencing or side deck techs like Dark Ruler no more. Therefore, Cyber Dragon is an aggressive and flexible deck that thrives on OTKs, board breaking, and nostalgia-fueled power. Whether you're a returning player or a beginner wanting something easy but strong, Cyber Dragon offers explosive plays and endless fun. So if you're looking to get into modern Yu-Gi-Oh!, this is the perfect time to check out this amazing deck and compete in real tournaments.